Oh shit! I realized I didn't even share my interview on the Discord. This is
Oh,
how bad I am.
it's okay, bro. So we just went live, and it's totally fine. And I'm gonna do that as well with coming in and sharing with people. But like I said, don't even worry about it. I did a couple of things where I shared the post both on Discord. I shared it on TikTok. I shared it on Instagram, and
Oh, sick.
the things and such. But really, like I really just wanted to have this kind of be kind of just about us for one, but also as a matter of like, hey, this is how, you know, people can get in touch with you and all of your information and like listen to your music and listen to all that stuff. I had a really fucking funny interaction today, go figure, which we'll talk about more in depth in just a second. But I have a really big speaker and I bring it to the gym, and you know that I do flips and stuff. We first met like right before I went on tour, I think, for Marvel. And
Yeah, I remember
I was playing some of my tunes and like everybody was kind of ignoring it and like not paying attention. And then I put on Meat Grinder and everybody looked at the stereo and was like, God damn. And I was like, well, shit. Still got a lot to learn. It was super
that.
cool. Yo, what's up,
Yeah.
everybody? Zane is here. We were just talking about you, bro.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got this is the YouTube chat we're looking at. I'm
Yeah,
such a
yeah.
boomer. Like in general, I'll be like, is this Instagram?
Right. It's
All
so
right, we're looking
confusing.
at the YouTube chat. This is what we do.
Yeah, the YouTube
All right.
chat is live. I'm gonna quickly share that your Discord, or share how people can get to your Discord on, what's it called, on this. Hi everybody, my name's Alckemy. Welcome to the channel. I've got fucking Copycatt with me, and we're kind of just chopping it up beforehand. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm vibing.
Man,
Actually, I think I'm gonna plug my headphones in so now that no one has to see my face. I can look as ugly as I want. It's awesome.
just
That's
to,
why I usually don't like wear my headphones when I do interviews. Like the audio will be shit, but I'll make that sacrifice for the sake of like I don't look like a dork.
oh man, it's all good. I think like really, it's really just one of those things of like, hey, here's how you can be comfortable and just kind of come on the channel and not have to worry about any of that stuff. And like, I'm just glad that you're here and that we're, you know, going to chop it up and have a good time. I do have a lot of questions
Sure.
for you, but if anybody has anything that you all want to say to, you know, Copycat, tell them how much you love them. Because what else would you got to say to him? But yeah, we'll kind of be checking in on chat and stuff, and he wants to respond. If he wants to respond to anybody, we can kind of do that. Yeah, bro. So for one, thank you so much. I cannot tell you like how influential you have been in my production. It was way back in 2017, and I found you on Facebook, and I was like, "Yo, Andre, what's good, man? You do the lessons?" And you're like, "Not really, but I'll do some with you." And I was like, "Yo, thanks. Here is all of my money that I can afford." And even today, you know, if you were to open up for lessons, I'd still be like, "Here's my money. Here's my money." Just because of how much shit you've taught that goes way beyond how to just make a bass, you know, how to do all that stuff. So I know that was just a bunch of compliments and stuff, but that's how I feel. So fuck it. But in essence, like I kind of
I
wanted to talk
appreciate
to
it.
you about like your history of hip hop and like how did you even get into music?
It was kind of it's a weird journey. Like, cause when I first started like properly trying to make music, I was really like, I was one of the bro step kids. Like, it was like 2011. Like, it was like peak Skrillex kind of like. Well, actually, Skrillex is kind of having a new peak now, I guess. But that was like, you know, when Skrillex was big, that was when I started making music. So I wasn't really doing a whole lot of like hip hop type stuff for the first like year or two.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think. So okay. So this is a multiple part question, I guess. Like the first part, like getting into music. I think I, if it weren't digital, like if it weren't like a computer thing, I probably wouldn't be doing it. Like I've always liked music and like I can kind of have like an ear for sounds and that sort of thing. But I
Yeah.
think the whole fact that I could do it on my computer, like there was just so much other shit that I was kind of doing on my computer anyway that it just became music. Like before that, it was like film sort of stuff. I used to like kind of try to make little movies, and then I think I like downloaded some software to try and make some like random jingles for like movies that I was trying to make, and then. I think my friend had FL Studio at one point, so I like hassled him for a copy of it, and then eventually, I don't know, I like started making beats on it, and then yeah, it was literally within like 3 months of getting FL Studio, I just started putting stuff on SoundCloud, and for some reason took it really seriously and thought I was amazing straight away, which I wasn't. I was terrible, but the fact that I thought I was amazing was probably a big help.
Does your
It kept me
homie still
going.
produce?
What's that?
Does your friend still produce that gave you a copy?
Yeah, he's really good actually. Oh man, he's a wizard with mixdown stuff. So he goes by Lemonade Baby now. His name's Brannon. So he's like one of my best mates. I've known him since I was 11.
Hey.
But yeah, he does a lot of like I guess he's kind of going down the like pop avenue where he's sort of learning about like melodic math and trying to like create stuff that is like almost engineered to be catchy, and then like kind of learning how to produce singers and songwriters and stuff. And he like makes his own stuff as well. But yeah, so that's I guess we kind of deviated like style wise at some point, but like from each other. I mean, we deviated.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
he's sick.
that's really cool. I really feel like if you have somebody that you can make tunes with, or like if you have a buddy, or even just like, you know, getting together with somebody either on your Discord or my Discord or YouTube or whatever, but like having somebody to kind of trade ideas with and like interact with as far as production is probably one of the most overlooked skills. Like I'm not sure if you saw the interview with Nolan, but he was even saying when he first started learning, he looked up some dude on Craigslist and found some mentor that was in college, and that's like how he got started. And you know, it's yeah, it's crazy, right? Like I was like, what? But yeah, that's
Craigslist, bro, like what?
Yeah,
I've never
yeah.
heard that from him.
But yeah, man, like mentorship and learning with somebody is really, I feel like the best way to do things. And I don't know, like I took a year at Berkeley actually while I was doing lessons with you, and I think we talked about this, but I was like, I could spend, you know, several $1,000s on a class and, you know, learn nothing, or I could take as much money as I could afford without going into debt and put that into somebody that's willing to teach me and learn exactly what I want to do. Have you had any experiences like that with somebody? Like, have you had any like other like mentors or stuff that talk to you about like just how to make cool shit?
I mean, honestly, in the early sort of learning days, not so much. I mean, I definitely agree with you in the sense that like I think the community aspect or having a mentor or even just somebody to trade tips with is pretty much essential. Like I actually don't think you can learn, I mean, there's not many people anyway that I know that can learn production or learn something like that completely isolated. Like they always have to kind of follow somebody, whether it's like, somebody on YouTube or they meet somebody to bounce off. It's just kind of like an essential component. So for me, I think I was trading tips a little bit. Like, so me and Brannon, I guess we were the only two producers. We were the only producer that each other knew for a little while. So I think he taught me about sidechain and like EQing and stuff. And so he had his uncle, Dan. Not that I don't know if his name is important. Like, it's not enough for anyone to find him. But there's a guy named Dan, and he happens to be my friend's uncle. It's crucial stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, his uncle, I think he was doing some like studio-ish stuff, and so he showed the sidechain stuff to Brannon, and then it would kind of trickle down to me. So I learned a bit from Brannon, and then sort of trying to find stuff off YouTube. But I would say in terms of like mentor stuff, I'd say the closest I've had to like somebody who mentored me, and it's pretty in a vague way, but I would say Bill, maybe Mr. Bill. Like he hasn't necessarily like taught me heaps of production stuff, but mainly like music industry stuff. I think he's probably the person I've pestered the most about like anytime I have questions about like, I don't know, particularly music industry stuff, like dealing with promoters or agents and like the visa stuff. It's like, Bill's just super handy. And I think because, I don't know, maybe I like kind of took a shining to him because he's also Australian, like any kind of like, I don't know what it is, but I met him and then like I just sort of started hassling him about stupid like things that I didn't know about. Because he was a bit more experienced than me. So I'd say Bill's definitely had a bit of like a input in my like career in that way.
Right. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when we met, you guys hadn't actually met yet, right? I think we met in the late 2017, early 2018, I want to say.
Yeah, I'm trying to. It would have been around the same time if I had met him. It would have been very like close to that date because I played the first time I met him. I played a support show for him
Mm-hmm.
at this like club in Sydney. I think that may have been 2017.
Wow.
But yeah, I like met him briefly in a green room. He was just like sitting by himself drinking beer,
Nice.
and I went up and chatted to him. I was like super nervous. I don't know if there's like evidence of this
I'm
gig anywhere, but yeah, it
I
was around
mean,
then.
it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? I think like in some cases too, like I even like talking to you and telling people that I did lessons from you and stuff. At first, I was like, well, hold on. There's a two-part story to that. For one, it is an honor, but it wasn't an honor because I wanted people to know about it. It was because of like, yo, like I'm learning from the people that I want to learn from. But aside from that, like I don't, it doesn't matter, evidence or not. You know, you're kind of somebody that I feel like is already up there on that chain, anyways. And I think that anybody would be lucky to meet you in person. You know, and there's a lot of
Yeah,
people
that's
even in
right.
chat that how I feel too. You know.
Yeah, you got some fucking sick people in your chat as well. So just people following you. So
Yeah, and sometimes you pop
you,
in and say hello, and thank you for doing that, man. It means a lot.
hello. No
Hi,
stress, man.
and I'm out. But
Hi.
thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. You know, hello, goodbye, whatever. It's cool. I my boy Andre came in for like 2 seconds.
Yeah, the
Nah,
most like unproductive cameos ever. Just yell hello and leave.
it,
It's absolutely my style.
it's totally fine, man. I think really just the acknowledgement goes a long way, and really just reminding people or people acknowledging that I exist and stuff is it means a lot to me, even if it's only brief. We get I'll tell you about something after the interview and whatnot and why I feel that way. But aside from that, can we actually go back a hot step? And I kind of wanted to talk to you about
Yeah.
like your intro to like how you started making swingy beats and like has your has your influences changed much or all that? I think the last time we talked, you were getting more into like trap stuff. I don't know if you're still like into that world or not, but how did you come up with that swing?
Yeah, it's kind of. I'm actually not 100% sure. So like the like hip hop kind of stuff, I started drifting into. I mean, Cohen Sound was obviously a big influence with their like Funk Blaster EP and that sort of thing. Like that was massive. Like
Yeah.
first sort of, I think the only mid tempo stuff that I really liked before that would have been like Skrillex and Knife Party did that Zoology track, or
Mm-hmm.
like Unison, the Knife Party
Knife
remix of
Party.
Unison by Porter Robinson. That was like
Yeah.
110 BPM. So it was like Mumbacore, Mumbasan, whatever it was called back then. Like that was sort of the closest thing to mid tempo. And then Koan Sound kind of did the mid tempo thing, and I think because of that, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what it was. I mean, I was probably exposed to like, do you know, the like the 2000s era pop stuff, like Chris Brown and like Akon and all of that. There was like kind of 100 BPM style in there. I know this isn't like classic hip hop stuff, but this is like, I guess I'm trying to find the seeds of where that would have come from
Yeah.
before I started doing it. But then obviously at some point I found like Jay Dilla. I started listening to Jay Dilla Vintage Volume 2. That's still my favorite like compilation or album from his. Like Donuts is sick, and like The Shining and all that. There's like heaps of cool stuff from him, but Vintage Volume 2 is this like sort of unreleased compilation tape or whatever of
Mm-hmm.
his stuff. And it just has the most like soulful, sick grooves on it. So I was listening to that a lot, and then around the same time I found Madlib, and I started listening to the album Shades of Blue, which is his like he basically got access to all the like archives of Blue Note Records, which is like a jazz label,
Yeah.
and he just flipped a bunch of stuff. And so that album as well was like massively super addicted to that. And so I guess like listening to those kind of yeah, Zane knows this one. Yeah, Vintage Volume 2. It's I'll just like drop it in the chat because I rate it so much.
I
Like
was, yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was gonna like be like, "Yo, Zane, does this sound familiar?" Because literally, like, this is what we've been talking about for like 6 months now of talking about Dilla and Madlib and just all of those like really sloppy, swingy beats that are just so freaking groovy, man. And that's really cool because it's like, yo, same influences, and it all kind of makes more sense and all that. I
yeah.
I think
Oh, for sure.
I think when I was doing lessons with you, you were finishing up Sweet Soul, and there
Oh
was
yeah, yeah, that
yeah,
sounds about right.
yeah, and we were talking about like a lot of melodic things and stuff, and talking about a lot of the compositional techniques and whatnot, and that's really kind of, it's just crazy like how all this stuff lines up, and it's cool that I can kind of trace back a lot of what you were doing and where your head was at the time, and that's something that I find more fascinating because it's not even just about the influence, but it's also about like the direction about where you want to go. And that's why I like to, have people like you come on the channel and stuff because I'm kind of curious of like where your head's at now and like what you want to do with your music and like what, it could be something of like what production or aspects of production are you exploring or like what's getting you excited about making beats or making tunes or whatever you want to call this thing that we do.
Yeah, yeah, sure. That was the question. Was it? What was that?
It is a question.
Sorry.
Yeah, it is a question, but
How do I English?
yeah, same.
Um, yeah. Okay, so like currently it's kind of tricky because I'm into a lot of stuff. Like I actually listen to a lot less electronic music than I used to. And it's not that I don't like it as much, but I just found like going through different phases of life in the last like 3 or 4 years, like I've just found different music to be really kind of medicinal and therapeutic in the way that it's now really kind of influenced what I want to write.
Hmm.
So there's kind of like a grunge rock and like thrashy sort of band sound that I really like now. Or I guess I'm sort of it's actually really hard because I like to think that almost everything I listen to in some way I will take influence from and create something from. But it's really hard to find like the summary of all of the things that I listen to
Yeah.
currently because it's a massive mishmash of weird stuff. There's a little bit of like, yeah, kind of like shoegazy grunge rock stuff. I've been listening to like a fair bit of like kind of screamo thrashy stuff lately. So I don't know. I actually don't know what it's gonna look like, but I'm definitely keen to explore more of those like kind of conventions, if not the sounds themselves. Like I can't see myself joining a band right now, but I would like to do like some sort of guitar metal like no, there's like no way to articulate it without it sounding like I'm just gonna like start putting metal guitar over like neuro drums. But like I don't know, yeah, there's I think there's a weird sound I'm exploring, but on top of that, I just end up making beats that sound like trappy donkey shit, like I always do. So I don't know.
But we
I'm
love
really
that.
like,
We love that. I love
yeah,
that stuff. I still there's like I said, there's still so much that I study, and it's only like it wasn't even until maybe a few months ago that I started really like actualizing, because when I first came to you, I was like, hey man, like I really want to like figure out this neurohop game, and you took me through everything from drums to bass to melodic stuff to sound structure to to this and that and this and that, and you gave me all the tools, and it's only taken me up until now and like doing lessons with all these other people to be like, oh, this is what it's about. To which like
yeah,
you will
right,
always be that influence part as a part of me, and so it's cool to hear that you're still doing stuff like that, but that also is exciting that you are branching out and doing things that are outside of your normal like sound aesthetic, I guess, because it means that you're growing. And
right,
that's what Nolan and I were talking about last week, of him just being like, yo, if you really want to get better at honestly just making beats, like try everything, try to do the stuff that you never do and explore that.
yeah,
And yeah, here we have another artist that's pretty much going that same route and pretty much like doing that in which to expand. Sorry, that was a lot.
yeah.
um,
No, no, totally. I agree with that. Like, I think you're almost because I think your taste will inevitably change or grow. Because it's not that I'm. Oh, there's probably some conventions that I used to be really into that I'm not as into anymore.
mhm.
But your taste evolves. I guess that's a good way of saying it. Is like some things you'll get more into, some things you'll be into in a different way, and then you'll be into new things. And I think it's like almost refining your skills to adapt to that. So like being able to sort of constantly express whatever it is you're interested in. And it's not that you have to be able to replicate every artist that you're interested in, but more
Yeah,
like just being able to express yourself as best as you can. So that often requires sort of like learning new skills
a
to kind of
fluency.
adapt. And
Yeah.
like even in the electronic realm for me, like I'm really enjoying some of the stuff I'm hearing out of like rhythm and like some of the more modern drum and bass stuff. Like they're just like the mix down style and like how OTT everything is. Like it's it's funny. Like I've talked to some rhythm producers. Like I talked to like Marauder a bit because he's Australian as well,
Oh,
and just
sick.
asking him about how that style kind of gets produced. You know Marauder, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, big like thrashy rhythm stuff. His shit's like super aggro. It's awesome.
I get a
But I
lot.
was asking,
Oh, go ahead, bro. I'm so sorry.
what's up?
No, please continue. Sorry.
How dare you talk at the same time as
Shit,
me?
my bad, my
Unbelievable.
bad.
No, what
Nice.
did you say?
Oh, I was saying like I get a lot of questions about that on the channel of like how to make his kinds of sounds, and like I at the end of the day I'm just like, even for how much stuff I practice, I'm like, I have no fucking clue. You know.
Yeah,
No clue.
right. Well, that's the funny thing is like, because I asked him, I was like, what do you kind of do to make your shit so beefy and so aggressive? And he's like, man, I didn't even think about it. Like, I feel like he was saying a lot of like rhythm producers just do like all the things that you would like not do if you were trying to make like a good mix down. He was like, you just kind of like eh, mix down like an idiot. That's basically the way he described it. Was like just do all the dumb things and like clip everything and smash everything and make it super loud and stupid. Um, I don't know. Maybe I'm exaggerating the way he described it. Maybe it wasn't that like extreme, but basically the way he described it was like I don't even think about it. Like it's kind of just like I'm just smashing everything. But I think there is like a total new thread of thinking with the rhythm stuff, where regardless of whether like people with zero experience can make great neuro, there's still like a train of thought and like there's a school of thought dedicated to that style of music that I think I'm really enjoying learning from, because it's it's just it's different, and so I like that stuff because it's sort of breaking rules for me, and that's again like adapting to sort of accommodate stuff that I like and
Right.
evolve. I'm kind of
Yeah,
learning from that sound.
it's exactly what you told me, and we had a quick chat before we went live. But one of the biggest things that you gave to me that resonated with the way that I taught, I don't really teach that much anymore, but when I taught martial arts, was you establish a structure or a framework, and when it doesn't work for you anymore, you break it. I had that written down on my
Yeah.
wall for like 6 months, I believe, and that was just one thing that I really tried to like take the time to internalize and be like, what the fuck does this mean? And like on the surface, it's like, okay, yeah, like a workflow and blah blah blah, but like the actual intricacies of what it means to like actually have a structure, and actually what it means to have like a train of thought that helps you go from making one decision to the other. So that's really cool that that you're still working and doing that kind of stuff too, which leads me to the next thing that I was hoping to touch on, which is we you said something in another interview, which you were totally being canceled for. No, I'm just kidding. But you said something in another interview that I really admired, that I've been saying myself a lot of. You were talking about making shorter beats, making shorter ideas. And what really resonated, that I was kind of shocked, was you were like, yeah, shit, I don't want to paraphrase or put words in your mouth, so feel free to correct me, but you were talking about how people don't usually play your whole tune anyway, so you might as well just make like a simple idea as cool as possible in a short amount of time, and then you've got your intro, main section, and then fade out into the next thing, and like that's all it has to be.
Yeah, no, totally. I think it's like the core of that, what I was saying there, is about like you kind of identifying the one thing or like the core centerpiece of your track and just working from that. Because like I used to have this kind of idea that like if your track needs to be 4 minutes long or whatever, then it's about writing 4 minutes worth of music, but it's not. Like it's really all you're doing is you're making one idea and finding the best way to introduce and sort of like tailor that experience. So it's like it might be, and that's why it always starts for me with like a 1 bar groove, which turns into an
Yeah.
8 bar groove, whatever. You're just taking one idea that's like really sick and just finding the best way to like shape the how people experience that idea. And so it's like not so much about filling out 4 minutes worth of music, but sort of fortifying 10 seconds worth of music. That's what you're doing, really. And that's where the whole, like, I don't have to make it a full track if I don't want to philosophy comes from, is that, like, really it's just about, like, okay, can I mix into this? Does the intro, like, do it justice and make it feel like, here's the idea? And then, like, does the outro or, like, the cool off beat or whatever feel comfortable? Or, like, is it long enough that people can kind of sit in it after enjoying the groove? Like, they're sort of, like, more practical ways to address just one idea rather than trying to make 4 minutes worth of music. So you can make a 2 minute idea, and there are some amazing tracks out there that are like 2 minutes long, and they don't need to be any longer because they do the thing they set out to do. And so that's totally
Right.
liberate yourself from the 4 minute idea thing.
And it's really cool too, because like I wish that, okay, so Zane is in here, and I wish that Cage would have been here, because what you're talking about has been what I've been studying from these two guys for the past year, and it's really been about, at least as far as like making the hip hoppy stuff or whatever, about like finding a fucking sick groove and keeping somebody in that, or making it, you know, as groovy as possible and accentuating the groove and all that stuff in order to start helping the tune write itself. I don't know if you've seen
Yeah.
Cheese Masterclass, but he kind of, well, at least at that point in time, he wrote in the same way. But when you're talking about like making beats and all that, or like making something that's supposed to smack or be exactly what you're talking about of like being mixed into, I've found that instead of trying to, you know, write a kick and snare pattern or something, or write a bass line, like having a sick percussive line or something is like one of the coolest places to start from, because from that point you get into the
Yeah.
jamming process. And that was one of the most like liberating things that I've ever gotten. And do you write in a similar way, or like, I'm sure that there's a bunch of different ways that you approach stuff, but like, do you have a theme in mind whenever you're trying to develop tunes?
Oh man, that's yeah. I don't know. It's such a random process for me. Usually, it starts with some sort of rhythm. Or no, actually, like sometimes it's sound design. Like I'll do like some wacky sound design and then just be trying to find the best rhythmic arrangement for those sounds. But yeah, I definitely think building around like a percussive element is really good for this kind of music that we do as well. I think because it's so rhythm focused, it really is all about like where is that sub going to land, where is that percussive hit or like the kick and snare, where are they going to land, more so than like the melody is a melody or a hook is really important, or something that like kind of draws you in or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think with like hard hitting beats, it really is about the rhythm. And like I feel like hip hop is a really good example. Like particularly looking at Jay Dilla's stuff, it's all like basically 1 bar grooves to like 4 bar grooves max. You know, some sort of loop
Yeah.
that they've just found a way to expand from. But it's generally, I don't know, like there'll be a riff, but it's like all of the drums and everything are about fortifying some sort of percussive pattern. So it's actually a pretty good way to start, I reckon, to like start with some weird percussive thing. I mean, like I've done the pluck thing for how many fucking years now, and it usually is just like I'll probably make a simple drum groove with like kick, snare, and sub type thing. So I'll make like a sub groove with the drums I like, and then I'll try and find like a lead rhythm that I can smash over the top of that, and then that will kind of become the track, and I'll like build around whatever lead fit on top of the drum rhythm I wanted to make.
Yeah. And at some point in the future, I know that you don't have time for lessons and stuff, but if you do find time, I would love to pick your brain further on like making leads and all that, or finding something that is in that percussive world, because I find that sometimes if you're just writing in bass and stuff, like you can get something going, but having those like really cool, like really loud percussive leads really help glue the track together sometimes. And I find that sometimes it's interesting to try to find a balance between making things with abstract sounds that fit within a groove, but making something that's also memorable and tangible. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you've experienced this or not, but I find that if you write with chords, or like the more melodic it almost feels like to me the softer the music gets. And for me,
Yeah.
I just want stuff to be like, you know, and fucking blow people's ears out. And I'm like, ah,
Yeah. Totally. I mean, it's interesting. I'm sort of like I'm really curious as to how like different artists that make the kind of like super dynamic music that I like, or like the stuff that I like to make, how they put melody in their tracks, because you do need it in the sense that like you can get away with doing pretty rhythmic stuff, but I find if you're going to play an hour DJ set or whatever, it's really hard to do an hour DJ set with no melody in it. Like people will just get tired. You're just hitting drums for 60 minutes. So like
right.
You do need melody, but I'm really interested to see like how different sort of producers in my field would introduce melody. But I find one of the sort of essential things is really that they have to do rhythmic chopping of some sort.
Right.
It's pretty hard. Or like pads maybe sometimes. Like I noticed like Chi with a lot of his like older stuff, he used to just have a big pad kind of going on in the background that would be heavily sidechained and distorted.
Right.
And that kind of added a layer.
Yeah. Yeah, but something that was so cool about his music, and you've had this in some of your music as well, like especially your older stuff, like Reverend and Wise Words, of sometimes you had some really cool arrangements of, sorry, I'm getting all excited and shit, like, yeah, fucking music, but Um, but I remember sometimes you had stuff that started in melody, and then like towards the end or something, you had it go for like that really hard like beat, like that really hard section or something. And then you also had some of those plays to where like you would play music for a bit, and during those other cuts, you'd stop the music and let your bass fills come in. But I find that so fascinating, and just how you balance that, and even people like like Zayn and Cage and stuff do that really well. It's just fascinating, man. I don't know. It's so cool to see how you all blend these elements together in such a compositional thing. And that's kind of where that comes into, right? Of like, I said all that shit that I just said about music and making it difficult and blah, blah, blah. But once you have a beat, then the next step, at least in my opinion, is like making a better composition.
Yeah, yeah, totally. That's like a skill in itself, I think. Like, because for ages, I feel like I was doing the beat thing really well, and I still feel like I have that problem a little bit where I'm good at smashing together a like 8 bar groove. But yeah, the like big learning curve is for me has been like sort of refining my compositional ability to be able to make it into a track and not
Mhm.
get too carried away with the whole 4 minute thing, but just thinking like, what do I need to do to turn this beat into like a composition?
Yeah.
But
Same.
yeah,
Same. When I finished the album that I wrote in November, like there was a really big moment of clarity where I was like, fuck, I got this on lock. And then I made one more tune. And after that, then I was like, fuck, I have no idea what I'm doing. It's just like, shit. I don't know if you ever get that or not,
Ew.
but,
Yeah.
um,
You probably just like leveled up your expectation. Sometimes I have that where like you get a formula for a while and then suddenly you expect like writing. I don't know. You expect your compositions to be better than they are, and then you have to like upgrade your skill again to impress yourself.
exactly. I think that's
Yeah, that's how I
exactly what
feel.
it is. Yeah. And, it's kind of cool in that way, but it's also nice to be like, fuck, like once you put something out and it's out, like it's really nice to kind of just sit on that and have fun, like doing beats again and stuff. I wanted to tell you as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever like. I know that we're kind of jumping around and whatnot, but something that really helped me find rhythm and find the groove and all that stuff, aside from like track delays and sloppy sloppy and this and that, was actually getting an MPC
Mm.
and banging out beats on that. And
Yeah.
getting physical, like I actually was like, oh, this is what this is about. Oh, this is how this works. Oh, this is why it is what it is. And this is the difference between like laying kicks and snares down on the grid and moving them off versus actually playing something physically and like trying to, I guess, like play something late and then catch up, or play something early and then slow it down and kind of like, yo, what up, Kunis? And kind of move in between all of those elements. Do you ever like do anything like that of the sort, or do you ever like do you have like a push or something, or are you still in Ableton? I saw you
Mm.
doing some FL stuff lately as well.
Yeah, I'm still primary Ableton. I do a little bit of FL stuff as well, just because it's fun and different. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, like, I feel like I'm in the same boat where I actually probably could benefit from doing it more. Um, I do have a push that I never use. I bought it like when I bought Ableton years ago, and I just like, I don't know. It just seemed like a really cool thing, and then I never actually found a workflow with it, which is the same for like so many plugins I buy as well. And it's just like, this is sick, and then like it doesn't become a part of your workflow.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I got Ableton Note like a week or two ago, which is like the iPhone app version of Ableton, which is kind of sick. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I should download that.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty handy. It's like $10 or whatever. Um, I made like one beat on it. It was pretty sick for what it was. And yeah, like I guess the restrictions of like I can't do hectic sound design stuff or like plan out exactly how things are gonna sound. You just kind of resort to grooving and just like jamming and doing random stuff. But yeah, I definitely found like because I do like use the keyboard like the keys to like jam stuff in when I'm writing sometimes, but it's not quite like I don't like bust out the whole set from jams. But like if I'm trying to find a groove or like percussive stuff, I'll literally just like hit play and then just like if it's a pluck,
Hmm.
I'll just be fucking donking over the
Just
beat, like, just fucking, and I'll
Yeah.
like eventually just like hit like post record or whatever that square button is at the top of Ableton that allows you to record something that you didn't record.
Right.
Whatever that's
Absolutely.
called.
Yeah, and I'm not
Um,
here to like offer you advice or anything, but one thing that I have found to be like super useful in like the MPC workflow and stuff, and I hit you up about this a while ago, and I didn't get a response, not from you, but from EPROM, because he was doing something with the tracker with that little M8 gadget thing or whatever. Um, and you know he's busy
Okay.
and stuff. But I was trying to ask around, and I think I talked to Zane about this too. But figuring out how to create a workflow to compose music and have like a dynamic performance-esque thing in the MPC. And what I found personally is that if you limit yourself to creating a specific drum rack that's only 16 pads, and you figure out what your main essentials are. So you got a kick, a snare, hi-hat, blah, blah, blah. And then you've got a few bass chops or like melodic loops. Then you start working within those limitations to start putting those songs together. And then once you have that, then you can expand that 1 bar or 2 bars that we talk about with the composition into like breaking the sound further. But that's kind of what I do. Yeah, that's kind of what I do within the MPC, because they have like, you can make neurobass in it. You can make kicks and drums, that they have synthesizers and stuff. So turning everything into a sample pack and then making a kit like that has been the most useful. And that would definitely be something that I would try if you haven't done that before.
Yeah, yeah, I've like contemplated trying something like that for ages. I always get like in a rut when it comes to the drum stuff because I get sick of my drums really quickly. Like I have to make new drums all the time. So I'll like make a sample pack and be like, all right, I'm gonna do like some MPC shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time I like go to jam a groove on, I'm like, no, this snare sucks. I need to like make a new one.
I feel you,
Um,
man. I feel you.
but I just need to get past that, I think, because then sometimes, yeah, I guess I've based a lot of the like thrill or like the thing that motivated me to write music was always like when you like complete a drum kit or something like that. When I've like kind of refined this drum sound for the day, I'm like, oh, that sounds fucking sick. Now let's make stuff with that. Like that's been the thing that's motivated me to make music. But then sometimes like I think because of that, I've veered away from like kind of doing more like groove based stuff or melodic based stuff in the sense that like I start with kind of like something that isn't drums basically and trying to
Mm-hmm.
like get some enjoyment out of writing initially from a different element. You
Yeah,
know, like I've always been like if I can't like make cool drums, then I don't want to like make a beat, but that's kind of a roadblock because I think Sweet Soul I started with actually I think I started with the sample and then like the bass underneath that and then I made the drums over that and then like there's been a few tracks where I've started not with drums but with other stuff and it's come out really sick but it's just like I'm just so used to like rewarding myself with like some meaty drum sound that I made on the day.
I must have gotten
I
that
need to
from
get past
you.
that.
That's so funny, dude. I make everything in Faceplant these days because it's just the most efficient and convenient. And when you talk about like sharing presets with people and stuff, it's like so independent. You could literally make anything in it. But bro, like if my kicks and snares are not good, then I know that I'm gonna have a bad beat day. Um,
Yeah, yeah, right.
but
It ruins everything. I don't know when your snare sounds shit or whatever. You're like, man, this beat is cool, but I just can't deal with this
it just
awful snare.
it doesn't hit. It doesn't hit, and that's
Yeah,
like the big thing. And like I find that like the most inspiring way I've ever made music, and I feel like you've probably experienced this as well, like goes back to that groove thing of like when your drums are hitting and when everything has a pocket and you can kind of like sense the spaces of like where everything should go in between. It almost trivializes what you fit in there because people are so enamored and captured with what is going on that, with the groove. But if
yeah,
it's got this really fucking annoying ringing sound to it or something, it doesn't matter how cool it is. It's just like, this is killing me. I don't even want to make music
yeah,
anymore. Why do I do this?
yeah,
Fuck music. No, I'm kidding, but
yeah. You just save the project and never open it again.
right. So something that
Yeah,
could be interesting though is what I do, because I know that about myself, and that's kind of alleviating to know that other people experience that as well. Is the MPC has a drum synth on it, and there's only so much that you can do. So I like pretty much maximize all the effects that I possibly can to make my snares and kicks and shit as cool as possible. And then I'm like, okay, this is all you got because this is all somebody with an MPC has. Now make something out of that.
yeah,
Those like Max for Live drum sounds that they have that's like really basic. I guess that would be the equivalent of it, but
yeah. Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the like classic sort of analog drum sound, like the kind of 606 like snare sound, like that sort of stuff. Yeah, if it's like something simple, it's not like a god tier snare, but it's something that's like multifunctional. Like see myself working with that, and then once I've got something that's cool, I can like load it into Ableton and then go all ham on making like fat drums or whatever. But yeah, I
Yeah.
guess you need samples that you don't like that aren't too exhausting, or like you can endure using over and over again.
Yeah.
I definitely find the like hip hop style stuff is a good middle ground because it's not like, a like full 110% energy drum sound. Like it's not like smashing you with the hardest energy ever. It's kind of just like more about making the groove.
Hmm.
So like hip hop drums are kind of good for that.
I'm really glad
So I
that
could
you.
probably do that.
Sorry, bro. I'm sorry. I do that a
Oh, there
lot.
you go.
I was gonna say like I'm really glad that you mentioned that because I've noticed that like if for me anyways like if I'm doing a hard hitting snare like a quote unquote um, bad copycat snare on my end, it's got to be really fucking good to work. But if I'm doing like a stick hit or a clap, it's really easy to work with that because the transients are just like they're not annoying to listen to and they don't have to they
Yeah.
create in my opinion they create a bigger contrast between your kick as if you were to do a really hard transient kick and a really hard transient snare.
Yeah, totally. I feel like you kind of like wanna when you're putting your drums in, you want the rest of your track to match the energy of the drums you're putting in. So it feels weird when you put in like really massive neuro drums and your track isn't built up enough to kind of like match that like huge energy.
Yeah.
And so I find myself getting stuck. Like if I just threw like pre-made neuro drums onto a track, sometimes I'm spending a while trying to like add all these layers and noise and shit to give it that like intensity that the drums have. Whereas with hip hop drums or like kind of more like stripped back stuff, you can throw them in and you don't have to do a whole bunch to the track to make it all glue together. Like you don't have to make it super dynamic and hectic for it to feel like something functional,
Yeah.
I guess.
They're like
Also,
competing.
shout out Message North. He's in the chat. Shit sick. I really
Yo.
vibe his music.
I actually haven't heard of you, but hello, hello everybody. I don't know if you've heard of Kunis. Kunis just dropped some stuff on Saturate, obviously physicist.
Yeah, I thought the name was familiar. I'm sorry, I don't know the music, but I've definitely seen this name before.
He was on the channel actually for an interview last week as well. So last Monday I had him, and then the following Wednesday I had Frequent, and shit, we got Copycat on the channel. How fucking cool is that? That's fucking dope, man.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I was actually kind of curious, like, was there anything in particular, like, with drums that you're doing different these days? And, like, I'm not asking necessarily about, like, going into super crazy detail, but more of just, like, mindset of how you try to approach them. I remember for ages, like, even then, some people were like, yo, I watch your Bass Gorilla stuff and all that stuff. And even I refer back to that sometimes, but I really like what you did a long time ago because you were like taking the fundamental of a snare and then crossfading it into the tail of like an acoustic style snare tail or something, and then like squashing those together and having some kind of wonky fade, but it works because of there's an actual fade even though it's like phasey or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
It was so cool.
Yeah, I still follow that kind of method, to be honest. Like I do different things now, but it's still sort of along the same lines of like divvying the snare up into different sections, or like different layers that are like very distinct.
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously the fundamental, or like the transient is generally like kind of built off the fundamental, like a big like sine wave kind of snappy thing. I use kick two a fair bit if I'm starting from scratch. Like I like to use kick two. And then I've found like I mean I like kick two because I can sort of customize the envelope of all the other layers. I mean, as well as like get really nitpicky with the like
Right.
pitch envelope of the snare, but generally I spend ages like nitpicking this like pitch envelope, and then the one that I'm happy with is just basically a straight line. Like I do all these like weird tweaks and move all the points around, and then like I kind of step back and look at the shape I've made, and it's just like a vaguely curvy straight line.
It's
I'm
a
like,
happy
I could have
face.
just done this in an operator. Yeah, exactly. It's something super simple that I've just like tweaked to shit just to rediscover a straight line. Like, whoa.
Look at that.
But
yeah.
yeah, my own custom invention, the line.
Do you do you have faceplant by chance?
No, I think my friend Tiny Ghost, Christian,
Yeah, yeah.
came and stayed with me for a while, and I think he actually may have installed it on my machine, and so I think I do actually have access to it, although I don't technically own it.
Man,
Yep, I think I do have it on here, and I feel like it's kind of the holy grail of doing hectic sound design stuff in one plugin. But I never got into it.
well, I for a long time, when you and I were talking and stuff, like everything you showed me was just strictly within Ableton. And so even then, I think it's kind of cool that you're doing other stuff now or whatever, but it's really mind-boggling of like how much you got out of just the Ableton stock plugins, and really is a testament to like, knowing your tools well enough. I still have never been able to make a snare as good as you in Operator, but I know that it could be done with the right tools. But even still, I find that for myself, actually 90% of my production is in Faceplant in particular. I don't represent them, or I'm not. I don't. I make content for them, but it's because it's good.
This program is sponsored by Faceplant.
Hey, Copycat, what are the chances you get Faceplant? No, but if you do, I'd be happy to send you everything that I'm doing within like snare design and stuff, because I think that there's a lot for you to like take everything that and I've kind of done the translating, if that makes sense, even from the stuff that Chi is doing, from the stuff that Cade is doing, from the stuff that Zane is doing, because you guys all have amazing drums. But you might be surprised at like how much stuff you can do, but then like it's not just like doing stuff, but it's like 5 minutes, and that's all it has to be. It's great. No resampling, no none of that, no crazy. Yeah, it's great. Highly recommend
Yeah,
it.
I'd love to see some fucking Faceplant presets or racks or whatever if you got them. I'd love to see them.
Dude, I honestly, man, like that's how I'm making this work. That's how I was able to bring people like you on the channel, is because people like thankfully like the presets that I've been making and stuff. But I'd be more than happy to send you everything and just have a chat about it sometime. Zane and I do that as well, and Cajun sometimes too, because I've found that I've created a monster and I don't know what to do with half of what I make, and I'm like, yo, take this and control it and show me show me how to control this, because I don't know what the fuck to do. But yeah, in regards to snares and stuff, and even kicks, and actually everything, you can design hats and percussive elements and generative things that are all that, and I think that you'd really get a kick out of it.
Yeah, I love the idea of doing like hat layers or percussive layers with Faceplant, because I like being able to like draw in an LFO and basically design like a sort of faux hat pattern with it, and that sort of thing sounds really cool. Because I mess around with Faceplant a little bit, but yeah, just not enough that I've like got a workflow with it.
Bro.
But yeah, for that sort of thing, it sounds sick.
Well, I'm going to try not to geek around Faceplant because of how much I talk about it on the fucking channel as much anyways, but you could literally go into any stream that I have, and like I do all the sound design at the beginning before I start writing beats, and you could kind of, bro, you are asleep, my brother. Yeah, I agree.
I was just reading that.
But because there's a convolution reverb built in that you can use your own convolution and make your own impulses, you can make everything sound like hyper realistic. You know what I mean? So you throw in a piece of white noise, and then you just put a hi-hat on, but you can pitch it and stuff. And then, you'd go through all your normal like dynamics processing. And then suddenly you've got this crazy hat layer that sounds like real hats or real rides. And it's like, damn, that was easy. That felt like cheat codes.
Oh, that's nuts. Yeah, I actually have used their convolution unit like standalone VST has been super handy, because it's just like it's the bare minimum with everything you would need out of a convolution. It's like the most simple interface, and it does everything you would want a convolution reverb to do without any like unnecessary knobs or anything like that.
Yeah.
So even as a standalone unit, it's fucking sick.
I was kind of curious on that note though. Sorry, so we started talking about Faceplant. I'll shut the fuck up about it now. But was there anything else like, or any other kind of like handy devices or things that you've been either trying lately or been wanting to try?
I think in terms of like, I mean, specifically drums, or actually processing in general, I'm getting a lot more. This is always like I always hate hearing other people say this, but I'm getting a lot more into like analog emulations. Like I can hear someone out there being like, "Oh, nice." Like shut up." But there are I don't know. I feel like there's maybe it's not like all wank, but there does feel like there's a lot of wank out there with analog stuff. But there are certain plugins that just do certain things that I really like, and it's really hard to pinpoint what it is about the tone that's really sick. But like with basses and drums in particular, like I've just found like what have I been using lately for like post-processing stuff? I'm just looking at my like plugin list here. Um, Actually, FabFilter Saturn. This is really weird. You know Saturn.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I
absolutely.
think they're on the Saturn 2 now. I don't even own it. I couldn't be fucked to upgrade. I'm pretty sure they've like fixed a bunch of phase issues and stuff that I'm still just dealing with. But FabFilter Saturn, if you just load up the like default preset for FabFilter Saturn 1, it's just like Warm Tube or something like that. I don't know what they do in this plugin. I don't know if it's this particular distortion setting or if it's just like I haven't really like extensively tested it to try and figure it out. But with bass and sub stuff, it does this like weird phase shift on the bottom end, which can sometimes sound really fucking sick. And like what I've done, what I've started doing, if I get like a sub or an 808 or I'm making like a bottom end thing that I really like, throw an instance of Saturn on it and see what it does, and then throw another one on, and then throw another one on, and just like keep adding them and see what happens to like the phase. And also it generally makes it kind of more scoop, so it gets brighter and more subby.
Hmm.
But it does something wacky to the phase, which is really sick sometimes. Like just throw like default Saturns on there, and I don't know, yeah, like I don't know
Huh.
how I cottoned onto it. I just threw Saturn on a couple of things, and I looked at the waveform, and I was like, why is it? It was a square, and now it's a triangle. Like what's happening? But yeah, it's like some weird phase shift. So I mess around with that sort of stuff a bit between like distortion and like things that create weird phase shifts. And like disperse is kind of fun sometimes, although I don't use the shit out of it for bass stuff. Like it is really cool for like just sound design in general.
Yeah,
But
lasers and things. I find.
yeah,
Yeah, phase. It's interesting too, and I'm surprised that we got this far into the conversation without talking about phase, because that was one of the things that was another one of the big things that I actually neglect that I should go back to about. For one, I don't know if surely you've seen the video that Mr. Bill did where he mentions you about like creating kicks and stuff, or creating, sorry, I think 808s through like shaping phase and twisting stuff. But you've always been
oh
somebody
yeah,
that like put out that idea about like aligning your phase to the kicks because it makes it hit harder and do all that stuff. And are there any other kinds of aspects that you're kind of exploring these days or something? Like, I don't know if you remember, but a long time ago, I asked if you could create like actual shapes through the stereo image, like a butterfly or something. And the other day, I saw you. There was a picture that you had that actually looked like you achieved that.
Oh yeah, within like I don't know if you mean kind of like vector scope
Hmm. Yeah,
type
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
where you use the two yeah. So I've been making I had like a phase during COVID where I was mucking around a lot with that like kind of oscilloscope stuff, or like it's vector scope stuff. So you use like the left channel is the X plane, and then the right channel is the Y plane, and you kind of like move this like, well, like an oscilloscope line around using these two channels, and you can make all kinds of like wacky shapes and stuff.
Hmm.
Like not quite like, because I guess what you're describing with like a butterfly is kind of like having it expand outwards from the middle, like in one, like from a center line. But this is kind of actually I could just paste an example. I don't know if you know Jerobeam Fenderson.
Uh-uh.
He's like kind of the flagship oscilloscope visual guy.
Can't say I know him.
Jerobeam. It's like the best name. Um, I wonder if that's his actual name, Jerobeam.
Jared Beam.
Like imagine calling your baby that.
Yeah, it sounds like
Like,
it sounds like some
"Oh,
shit from
Jerobeam."
Kentucky. God dang, Jared Beam, get your butt. Sorry,
Yeah, I'm
sorry.
firing up the Jerobeam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
Oh,
paste that. That should actually appear in my little Discord window.
yeah. I'll
Some
copy this for everybody to take a look at. And then I
oh,
just
actually, I can
posted.
just yeah.
Yeah, I just posted
No, I can
another
paste
thing
it in here.
to your Discord as
Bam.
well.
Oh, yeah, sick.
Speaking
Um,
of, yeah, if you guys are wanting to stay up to date and stuff with what Andre is doing, you should definitely join the Discord and stuff because he's a very busy person. But when things are happening, I tend to try to pay attention. Did you just had a show recently, right?
Yeah, I had a few. The most recent one was Victoria. It was in Rubik's Warehouse in Melbourne. That was probably oh, January 11th. January
Mm,
11th. So it wasn't that recent. Like it was probably a few weeks ago now. But I've got two this weekend. So I'm playing Canberra on Friday and then Brisbane on Saturday.
that's awesome, man. Yeah, dude, like
No.
if anybody's, out there in Australia, like please go support him because I would fucking kill to see you live. Zane says, "Yo, Andre, have you been getting into analog processing?" Wait.
Um, not as in like not real.
I
Somebody out
know.
there's fucking Zane. No, yeah. So not like real outboard gear, even though, or actually, to be fair, so I've got a remix of a Vorso tune coming out pretty soon, and Tom actually like Vorso, I mean, he has some outboard gear that he ran it through for like the master. Um, yeah. Also, I'm totally taking the piss, saying it's funny.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, analog gear emulation. Like, yeah, there's actually a couple of free things that are really sick. There's a company called Shattered Glass Audio. So if you literally just type in SGA and just put that in the chat, the only thing I've said in the chat is a URL and SGA.
Cigar.
But
Nice.
yeah, so they have a couple of free emulations. There's one called Code Red and another one called, it was just SGA 1566, and it's emulations of like an outboard gear. They're pretty like gnarly. Like if you run them hard, they distort to fucking sound really crazy. But I found SGA 1566. It's just this like freeware looking ass emulation, but it actually does some really cool stuff to drums and basses. It puts like weird DC offset on it, and like I don't know, it's like very analog kind of weird distortion. So that's really fun. And then like Native Instruments has a couple of units that they're sort of modeled off analog gear. I don't know if it's like specific units, but they do kind of unique analog things. Like I'm a huge fan of Driver by Native
Yeah.
Instruments. I know there's a few people out there that use that now.
Yeah, I
Um,
saw you using that on Instagram. Which check out his Instagram. He's doing cool things on there. But yeah, I saw you doing that on
Sometimes.
Instagram, and I was like, oh man, that's a plugin I haven't looked at in a long time.
Yeah, it's weird because it's kind of not like it's not like one of those like all-purpose kind of plugins where I don't know. It's not. It doesn't feel like it's. I don't feel like I use it the way it's designed to be used. I don't know how it's designed to be used, but it's just like this weird filter plugin that happens to distort really nicely, and it resonates ridiculously. Like it does this like really long extreme resonance type thing, which is really aggressive,
Hmm.
but sometimes sounds cool on things. I've gotten in the habit now. Like the most recent beats I've made, I literally just put it. I'll like group everything together. You make like a faux master group and put driver on that, and basically like don't change any of the parameters, so the filter's not really doing anything, it's just using the distortion from it,
Hmm.
and it sounds so fat. Like you drive like kick and bass into that, and like everything clips in this really nice way.
Interesting.
So yeah, definitely using like analog emulation type stuff for gluing things together, it can do some really cool stuff.
Haha, bass go brrr. Give it a try. Yeah.
Exactly.
Um, Yo, so yeah, man, that's really freaking cool. And when it comes to production stuff, I would sit here and keep you on until you starve to death. But I find that, um, yeah, I really do. Thank you so much for one. But I was actually gonna ask, like, would it be cool to maybe take a couple of questions and then we can kind of wrap it up? Because again, I don't want to keep you for too long. Um,
Yeah, for sure. Oh, all I'm doing is procrastinating on working on my set for the weekend. So I'm after
yeah,
this call, I'm probably just going to continue procrastinating and find a game to distract myself with.
well, what are you playing
So
these
yeah,
days? What do you?
oh fuck, I won't go too much into depth into this because I could rant. But have you heard of Dwarf Fortress? I would be curious to see if anyone in the chat has heard of Dwarf Fortress.
Dwarf for is that on Steam?
It is. It actually only just sort of released on Steam in December. It's a really old game. It was made by these like two brothers. Okay, yes, we got some Dwarf Fortress fans. This is sick. Yeah, so it was like it used to be like borderline like ASCII graphics, like super like just bare minimum shit. But it's a cool game because like everything has like a ridiculous amount of depth into how it happens. So like you basically the premise of the game is you have like a fuck, I totally wasn't going to go into this, but I'll try and
It's
sum it
cool,
up
bro. It's
quickly.
cool.
You have like a colony of dwarves, and you like basically give them instructions, and or like you give like a list of work orders and stuff, and you have to kind of basically help your colony expand and survive. So you can like, it's kind of, I could say you could compare it to like Age of Empires in the sense that like you kind of, without directly controlling anybody, you're trying to like build a bunch of shit and like create this kind of thriving economy.
Yeah.
But the difference is that, yeah, you don't directly control anything, and everything has this ridiculous amount of depth as to how it happens. So like every creature has like eyes, ears, a nose, and it's not like you're seeing this stuff, but it all is calculations going on in the background. Of like, it has like eyes, ears, nose, like organs,
Yeah.
skin, all this stuff. And like when creatures fight, it'll like, you can look at the description of what's happening, even though there's not much going on graphically, but it'll be like such and such hit their like left liver with the sword and did this much damage, and like, and so all of this weird shit happens in this game, and
That's
so it's
hilarious.
super entertaining. It's like a big learning curve initially, and then like once you get used to it, like it's just the most, yeah, the most bizarre, nerdy game. It's a bit like D&D in terms of like the stories you get from it. It's just like strange shit happening. I don't know.
No, that's
yeah, so I'm
that's
playing
awesome.
that.
And I think like games like that are important too, because like it's really easy to just like veg out to, you know, like a shooter or something. But I find that like a lot of games that like kind of make you be creative can sometimes be helpful in your own creative process. Like I play a lot of Dead Cells. I'm not sure if you've heard of that or not, but they've got all these build synergies. It's like a roguelite Metroidvania, but you get random items as you go, and each time it's new. But like learning about the items and stuff, like if you have certain combinations, it makes you really strong. Or if you know, change your build in a creative way, you find accidental like things that work out really well or make the game more interesting. And I find that by playing with these combinations and stuff, it's exactly like, you know, it's almost, you're arranging, you know, you're just arranging stuff.
Yeah, you like kind of working your creative muscle in a different way. I like to think that's what it is. I'm just being productive in a different way.
Exactly.
And I'm usually just procrastinating. That's how I tell myself.
Right.
That's what I'm doing though.
I actually did have one other question for you. I didn't get a chance to go into depth with this before, but I'm actually curious, like, how did you meet Nolan and Hudson and like the Upscale family? And like, how did you, not necessarily like, how did you get in with them or anything, but like, how did you guys find each other? Was it through Neurohop forum or like?
Yeah, that's a good question actually. So, my first ever release with a label was a Melbourne label called Adapted Records.
Yeah,
And I think
remember.
I'd heard them, maybe it was Scope or I don't know whose music. I think Mr. Bill was on there maybe once or twice. Actually, no, Mr. Bill was on there a bunch. He had like a big beef with them, which I won't get into.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
maybe Nolan has mentioned it briefly about how like Upscale started, but basically the first release I ever had on any label was Adapted Records, and it was this compilation called Up and Comers 2013, and obviously it was in 2013, and it was just like a bunch of kind of like glitch hop mid-tempo sort of artists who weren't well known on like this free compilation album. And yeah, on there of like people that I still know. The first time I'd ever heard any of these people's music or like encountered them was Frequent was on there. Evoke, Alden. I don't know if you've heard of Evoke. I don't know if he still goes by that.
I haven't seen him since him and Frequent made that YouTube tutorial way back when.
Yeah, that would have been like 2014 probably, or like 2015. I don't know, sometime around then. But yeah, he was in there. Johnny Pearson.
Mm-hmm.
So he was in there. There's a guy Fuse who changed his name to What Good a little while later. I actually haven't heard from him in a little while. But he was on one of the Night Owl compilation things. I wonder if Kyoto. I don't think Kyoto was on there, but initially that compilation album, there were a bunch of us that were kind of on that.
Crazy.
And between that and then like Neurohop Forum was the other thing. I think Neurohop Forum may have happened after for me. I think I ended up on Neurohop Forum a little bit because of that little like up and comers thing. But yeah, that's how I met Johnny Pearson, and I heard like Frequent's music and stuff. And then we all just started chatting. Johnny Pearson, I remember he like added me on Facebook after that album, and he was super chatty. I'm like, I'm not hanging shit on him. This is just a really funny first impression. I actually was like, man, this guy's kind of annoying at first. Like I didn't like him. Not that I didn't like him, but I was just like, man, he's just like talking all the time. And then he ended up being like, now it's the opposite. Like I annoy the shit out of him with like random stuff on Facebook. But
That's
just
funny.
because he was like super sociable and really outgoing, we ended up becoming friends where we might not have otherwise. And then I ended up like, I don't know, we have like the massivest like voice message history where we just send like stupid shit all the time. But yeah, so anyway, Adapted Records, neurohop forum was how I met a lot of those dudes, and then we kind of all just like traded stuff.
That's
How did I end up? Must have been via Facebook back in the day. There
Facebook.
wasn't really any other platforms that I used that much.
Yeah, and if correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't even think Neurohop forum lasted very long. And then there was a Neurohop forum chat in the Facebook groups, and then now there's like one person that still posts in there. Poor guy. I'm like, bro, you're like a one man forum, but hey, man, big ups to him. Um,
Holding it down.
Yeah. Speaking of, yeah, it's cool, man, because everything you say, like, I'm just feeding off of it. Okay, last question from me, and then if anybody has any questions, then you can ask them, or if you got any questions for me as well, I'm more than happy to take that. But I kind of just wanted to touch on one of the coolest things that I got from your music, which is the post tune memes. Do you still do those? and how did you what gave you the inspiration for those skits? Because they're the best. They are the best.
Yeah, I still do them. It's kind of like it's not a chore, but like it's something that I'm obliged to do now because I feel weird if I post a tune and there's no meme because it's like the worst thing if people expect a joke and then one isn't there. It's like so underwhelming.
True.
So I'm kind of like bound to it now, but I always find something stupid to put at the end of them. But I totally got that from Space Laces. Space Laces, the first one that I heard, and it killed me, was the end of X-Rated, Space Laces and Excision.
Mm-hmm.
Right at the end, there's this fucking random audio file that's like, it starts out as just like H, 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 and then
Yeah.
I'll find it.
Yeah, my favorite one for
Actually,
while you're looking for it was I can't remember which tune it was, but you were like, "Yeah, I've been saving this for 6 months."
yeah, that was me, Johnny Pearson, and Christian Tiny Ghost. Like, it was the first time I'd ever like been to America for music stuff, and we were all hanging out and recording that. Yeah, I've been saving this for 16 months. You will have my complete nut.
It's so good, man. Please, if it's, I know that you said it's obligatory, but like, I think that one of the biggest things that alludes to that is I'm sure that not every tune that you release has this wonderful happy-go-lucky process that's just oh, I'm gonna write a tune and it's done, but you still manage to not even manage, but you still choose to put something exciting and funny and full of a playfulness, I guess, within your music, no matter how serious your tunes are. Even Tom's Battery was really fucking hard, right? And then at the end of that, you had a bunch of, was it Vorso, I believe, or somebody was
Yeah.
it's drum and bass, but just boring as fuck or something, and that was so I almost want to say iconic, because that put out just another part of your personality into your tunes, and you did it in such a way that was not only really natural, but even sometimes was it suave or something where you put another post beat, and I was like, damn, that could have been a whole tune.
Yeah, that fucking weird beat I made.
Yeah. Oh, To
Yeah.
Discover, that's right. Yeah. So
I think it's a part of the culture, I guess. Yeah, I was about to bring up To Discover because that era in particular, around when To Discover came out, Tom's Battery and all that, upscale, there was kind of a pretty tight community, and there's still a tight community around upscale, but
yeah.
then there was kind of a lot of memes that came with that community, and that's To Discover was kind of another flagship meme, I guess.
Right.
And it was kind of it's just I guess it's a nod to all the people who are really into that stuff, is you kind of putting another piece of that same scene in there, which for me is with putting Vorso at the end of Tom's Battery. I don't know if anyone, I'm sure it's obvious to some people, but Tom's Battery, his name is Tom Slattery. So we basically named the tune after him.
I knew his name was Tom, but I didn't know that's what that tune was about. That's so funny.
Yeah, so that's why it's called Tom's Battery, is because it's Tom Slattery. But he didn't know we were recording him that day. We just jumped in a call, and it was pretty much the intention was to record him a bunch. But he didn't know, and then I don't know, he got onto talking about liquid drum and bass.
Yeah,
All the liquid drum and bass is just boring as fuck.
that's so
No,
cool,
that's quite
man.
funny.
I think like one of the cool things about that too is like I feel like you were the first person that I heard it from, but I guess like whenever the upscale and you guys got together and stuff, like I talked to Nolan last week about Japanese turkey knees, and he told me it was the same fucking story about sending memes to Johnny Hash and stuff, or yeah, I think it was Johnny Hash, and just like he kept sending him stuff and made it even more annoying or like more pestering and all that, and then eventually it became what it was, and I'm like that's just like that's fucking beautiful.
Yeah. That's so sick.
It's super cool, and I think that like that's definitely something to aspire to with people building their own communities with people that they get in tight with and all that, because there's a camaraderie or a friendship of like, for one, everybody wants to get better, and I know that because I've talked to you, I've talked to them, I've talked to I talked to Hudson about where he's going and all that stuff, but it's not so fucking serious. And that's definitely
Yeah.
like one of the big takeaways that I hope people are left with about like still having a good time with tunes and still like being playful in nature of that way of like, let's make something stupid because we want to make something stupid, and then sure enough like it becomes a fucking banger that people play out at clubs, and it just almost like, I wonder if like you all cringe at that sometimes of like, yeah, this was totally a joke, but everybody's dancing to it and they think it was something super serious, and I'm like, man, that's some cold shit. It's really cool though. It's really cool.
There is a bit of that. Like, actually, there are times where I cringe a little bit, but I'm like, oh god. Actually, oh, Nolan did me a dirty the other day. So he sent me this. I posted it on Instagram. He sent me this I don't know if it was before his birthday, but he sent me this like random chat GPT shit. Like he just like asked chat GPT to write some stuff with my name in it. And I like sent him a voice message of me reading it back. Like it was literally just like
Yeah.
random like it's like this really shit poem about coffee. Here we go. Yo, it's your boy Andre trying to brew a cup of Joe, but every time I try it seems to overflow. Like it's just like random garbage.
Yeah.
And so I recorded that and sent it back to him. Like I just recorded a voice message of it. And then he just sends me a video of his set at Cervantes with Hudson, that like the upscale show they did.
Hmm.
And he's just pasted that recording of me over the top of like two songs. Like it just keeps going. And so there's like all these people dancing, and then just me being like, "Yo, it's your boy Andre trying to brew a cup of Joe." I was like, "Why did you do that?" But it was funny, and that's wholesome. I think like I don't know, doing things with confidence. Sometimes people copy and you don't mean them to. Like it's just I don't know. That's how I feel about like probably Space Laces was just being fucking silly, and that like made an impression on me. Like when he was putting memes at the end of his tracks, I'm like, that's amazing. I've got to do that.
Yeah.
And now it's sort of become this thing, and I hear other people do it too. They put silly shit at the end of their tracks, and it's sort of become like a cultural norm. When at some point it was probably just like an awkward thing that Space Laces was doing. I don't know.
Yeah, and it kind of like changes, to me anyways, it almost changes the game about what it's about, because to me, like it's really easy to get caught up even for people like I don't have any music that's signed or anything of the sort and whatever, and even for somebody like me, I'm like, man, like I want to experience what that's like to step in the professional world, but sometimes it's so easy to like get caught up in that you forget to like be a part of the culture. And so to see that you guys,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying that's what upscale is about by any means, but just that's something that's really admirable that I don't think a lot of people would ever know if you wouldn't have said anything like that, or Nolan would have said anything like that, because there's this live dynamism that's happening between the interactions that you all have, and that's really fucking cool. Long story short.
Yeah.
I admire that
No,
so
it
much.
is. It's cool. It's sort of captures the moment, I guess, being able to put that stuff in.
Yeah, like, I don't know if you all are like planning on having families at some point or whatever, or even just like, talking to people that you meet that are new of like, yeah, one time fucking Nolan played this tune out and like he played this voicemail that I was set up, man. And like, you know what I mean? Like that's something that you'll take with you for the rest of your life, hopefully in a positive light, of course, but like that's really freaking cool. And, for me, like in things like this, even on a, I guess like semi-serious thing, I've had the ability to kind of talk to amazing producers like you and everybody else that's been on the channel. Zane, thank you, bro. Like you come in all the time, and yeah, thank you, dude. You're fucking awesome. And Cage and all those guys. And I'm like, man, at some point in time, like I was able to kind of just have a talk with the people that I look up to in the music world and be able to like approach them as people and not as like, you know, icons or something of the sort. Cause that's what, to me, that's what it's about, right? Is just creating relationships with people and having real interactions and like talking about the things that matter. You know, it's not about like, yo, how do I get on this label? But more so of like, bro, how are you? And what are you doing with music? And like, what inspires you? And what leads into the artistry that you all have? So with that, dude, like, thank you so much for like giving me a little bit of that. I can't tell you how much that means. And for everybody kind of coming in as well, I guess to kind of wrap things up, do you have anything else that you want to tell us, or, you know, anything else of the sort? Or
I'm single. If there's any girls in the chat, feel free to message me on Instagram. I'm still like so single. It's crazy.
That's
It's excruciating.
Oh, well, we'll come to the States.
I'm only 50% kidding.
Come to the States. We'll take care of that. It's very easy to find women in Las Vegas. But yeah, dude, like you're so fucking cool, man. Thank you so much for joining me today, and everyone else as well. Thank you for being part of this establishment. I've been doing a lot of interviews lately. I still gotta tackle Hudson and see if I can get him in and have a chat with him. And dude, like, I don't know I hope you had a good time, but like, please come back soon and like, you know, let's do this again, and happy to, you know, make sure that you're taken care of and all that. But I like doing these things, and I hope that you have a good time as well. And
yeah, man.
Yeah, it'll just be super cool to just keep the interview stuff going and just kick it. Would love one with
Hudson. Man.
He's already said
always
yes.
Down to have a bit of fucking chin wag.
Yeah. Or, you know, or play games, or, you know, just talk about production or something. Or, you know, if you want to do something like that is like production related or whatever, then maybe we can set something up to where, you know, you're compensated fairly, and you know, it's something that you'll feel like is fulfilling. I still hope at some point you put another course out, just because the one that you did, I know like Bass Gorilla aside or whatever, but just the fact that you put one out, like, that's still super relevant. It still has so much stuff that is still being done today by every other producer I know. But yeah, dude, like, update it sometime, and I'll even figure out how to put it out there or whatever. And yeah, you're a really good teacher is what I'm saying. So please, in some form,
thanks,
if you feel like sharing, please do that again, because of how much I've learned from you. So yeah, thank you, everybody.
No, I would love to put some
more
fucking tutorials out.
Yeah, that'd be dope, man. Andre, can you just stay on for just a couple more minutes if you don't mind? And then for everybody else,
totally.
Thank you all so much for being here. We'll probably call it here, and that way he could get his gaming on. But thanks, dude. I had a great time, and hopefully everyone else did too. I will see everybody tomorrow for some production. Bye, everybody.
See you, dogs.
See ya, doggies.
See ya, dogs.
All right. Yo, man, thank you again. I